Hey, welcome back. In the last video, I promised you to proceed now to more complex configurations. But before we do so, I would like to introduce the remaining symbols of the application bar. We know already the home button, uploading a configuration from your local computer, editing a configuration, and also run the configuration as a system in the backend. Then we have this new one here, which is downloading a configuration that you have in your browser onto your local computer. It's just downloading in your download folder. And what you get then, if you press that, and we open the file here, what you see here is the configuration in a JSON format. So you can write your configurations yourself in JSON format, but you have to be careful to use the exact syntax, but then everything is pretty convenient and you can be pretty productive with that. But as a beginner, I would highly recommend to use the built-in editor instead. Also, you have a download button for the events that took place in the system during its execution. Um, for every work item and every event that takes place, one line is written in this log file here that we see in a second. And you can then have a look at it. I just downloaded, so it's downloaded into your download folder on your local computer. It's a CSV file, and we open it with Excel. And what you see here is time, work item, the event type, the value chain, and the process step. And if a worker is involved, it shows up here as well. And you can see here a little later, for instance, like here, at the time 90, the work item 97 was moved from alpha work item process step 2, was moved into this stage. And then you see also other events like worked on. So on work item 155, or at time 155, the work item 85 was worked in Alpha 2 by Rusty. And you can choose to feed that granular information or data into any analytical tool or statistical tool of your liking and try to derive further insights into the performance and behavior of your configured system. Okay, then we have two more buttons that I'd like to show you. Number one of the two is that one here. It shows you the events that the application was going through, and you see the last event was statistic events downloaded. That was what we just did a couple of seconds ago. And if you would like to see the full history of all events of the application, then you can toggle that here, that button here, and then you see the last event was here, front end, did a download of the statistic events, and before that, other stuff has happened, and you see everything is green, so everything is working fine. If there's something going wrong, if you experience an error in the back end or so, it will show up here. Okay, you can toggle that here and hide it again. And then we have the last symbol here, which is that one here is the trash can. And if you press that, it throws away the configuration that you have in the browser at the moment, which is rather simple. So let's press that, and then we're thrown back onto the home page. Now, let's do what we promised and load a more complex configuration. I choose the one which is named more advanced. And let's go into the editor right away and see what we've got. You see that this configuration is bigger than the last one, so it is more complex for certain. And it has two value chains, alpha and beta, as you can see here. And it has two process steps, 1 and 2. The first one, and beta has just one process step. It's called uno. Now, there are more parameters now provided. For instance, value degradation. Value degradation defines how the value of the end product degrades over time. So in that case, I choose discounted, which is a discounting function. And the argument is 10% or 0.1. And what it does basically is every time unit, the work item took longer to go through the value chain than the minimal cycle time, it loses 10% of the remaining value. In other words, the longer the customer has to wait, the less he wants to pay for it. So if you have your value chain not well organized and it comes to high delays in delivery, be prepared to collect less money from your customers than expected. Also, you see here the injection throughput. It's 1 and 0.6, so we can preset that here. Yeah, otherwise you can change around, you can play around with it and change it also during the simulation. We have here the two process steps with norm efforts 1 and 2, and there's another parameter that I would like to explain to you. It's the work in progress limit. What that basically says is that at no time can be more than 2 unfinished work items in the process step alpha 1. If there's another one that wants to be injected into process 1 as a new work order, it is being rejected unless the work in progress is below 2. If another slot is free, then a new work order comes in. Everything else is rejected. Bad luck for the customer. But that is a way of keeping clear the inventories and make sure that the work, the value chain is not overloaded. So this is a limiter at the front of the value chain, and then also the second process step has also its WIP limit 3. So they cannot move a finished work item to the next process step unless the second process step has at least one free slot. That means the work in progress is 2, 1, or 0 at that moment. Okay, let's move on to beta. Beta is another example of a value chain, and it has another degradation function. It's called expired. And expired says basically when the cycle time is not longer than 2 above the minimal cycle time. In our case, it would be the norm effort 2 plus 2 until 4. It keeps its value of 3. If it's 5, 6 or higher, then it loses all its value. So it's like discounted, but in a more harsh way. It keeps its value until a certain threshold, and then it loses all its value. Think of it as food, for instance, that cannot be held longer than a certain period of time. Otherwise, you have to throw it away. Yeah, and then we have no WIP limits here and no presettings for injection throughput or probability, but then the defaults will be filled in by the system. Then we have the workers, Sally, Rusty, and Vicky, but we have a section here in the middle. It's called Globally Defined Work Item Selection Strategies, or strategies in short. What is that all about? Well, workers can only make decisions upon which work item to work on next. That's the only thing that they can do. They are assigned to process steps, maybe on multiple value chains. Then the new work comes in, and the only thing that they can basically do is make a decision what work item that is not yet finished to work on in the next time unit. And therefore, we can define strategies. And that's done in a way where you can assign a name, like clever, for instance, for a strategy, and then you define the criterion by which the work items at hand to the worker are being sorted and then selected finally. In that case, I give you an example. This strategy says, okay, first of all, if you have many work items at hand from multiple value chains and process steps, then look into the work items and see what the contribution is of the value chain the work item belongs to, and then select the maximum of them. So concentrate on the value on the work items of value chains that create the highest contribution. Still, you might end up with more than one work item, and in that case, this strategy says for the remaining work items that fit that criterion, apply this criterion. Okay, let's see what the remaining effort in the value chain is. and take the one that has the minimum. Now, in the case that we still have more than one work item, then random is applied. Then choose any of them. Okay? There's another strategy defined. It's called magic. It has just one criterion, one sort vector, as we call it here. And it says, look at the value add of the value chain. So the overall value that is generated of the value in the value chain, the work item belongs to, and go for the maximum and choose whatever is there. Again, if you have multiple work items that qualify this criterion, random is applied. Or you say there's another one called random. There's no sort vector defined, which is to say, hey, it's random. Choose just anyone by throwing the dice, so to speak. Now, what we can do then, we can assign Sally as a worker a strategy. She works using magic. So this is the sort vector, the strategy that she uses when she has multiple unfinished work items on her table. Rusty has assigned two strategies, namely clever and random. And you will see and learn in a minute why you can have more than one strategy and what this is good for. And also, Wiki has two strategies assigned, clever and magic. So that was this for now. And I promised you that this configuration is already more complex, and I guess it is. And then in a minute, we will see then in the next video, however, how this plays out when we try to run this as a system.